So recently I went on a trip that I honestly thought was not in the cards for me for a very long time, but I am so incredibly grateful for the chance to have done it. And I wanted to talk about it with you guys for a little bit. So from May 5th to May 15th, two of my friends and I organized a trip to Germany. Or, well, at least my two friends were going for a concert, and then they invited me along for the full trip, and so here's how it went. So, our first day of travel was May 5th. Day 1 ended up being about 34 hours of travel. We got the cheapest flights possible, which was phenomenal considering it was a flight from, North America to Europe, which is usually very pricey. But it also meant that it was inconvenient in terms of timing. So from our area, we had to leave from Ottawa to Toronto, which is the bigger international airport in Canada. And our first domestic flight was at 5:55 in the morning. So therefore, we had to arrive at the airport at around 3:30 to get ourselves organized. And honestly, that night I only slept maybe 2 hours, and that's being generous. And it ended up being very rough, but in the end, it really helped my transition to, the European time zone. So I'm not too mad about it, even though it was a challenge, but I pulled through. We arrived in Toronto around 7 a.m., and our next flight to Frankfurt, Germany was at almost 8 p.m. that evening. So we had a full 13-hour day in Toronto. And it was a long wait, but thankfully I ended up meeting up with a friend for that day, and we saw some cherry blossoms and some cows, and it was so nice to meet her for the first time. And I'm so incredibly grateful that I even got the chance to spend a day with her. So for me, it was worth it. For my friends, it was a little bit of a longer wait, but anyways, things went well regardless. So we had a long day, but it ended up working out really well anyways. So after a long day of waiting, we finally boarded and departed on our adventure. I thankfully slept most of the flight and enjoyed some snacks, but honestly the views in the last 2 hours were completely just mind-blowing and beautiful. It was so awesome to recognize what areas we were flying over as well, like the area of the UK, and then I recognized Ireland and the coast and things like that. So it was really cool that I could recognize that from, up in the air. I could also see cute little ships in the sea, and it just felt very surreal to, be so high up in the sky and see all those little ships that are technically not so little when you're standing on one. I saw a couple cruise ships as well, and it was such a beautiful, sunny, a little bit cloudy day, but we could see the white of the waves on the ocean, and we could see the sun and the glittering, and it was really beautiful to see. I hadn't been on a plane in 5 years at that point, so it was really nice to be up in the sky again. Finally, we landed in Frankfurt around 9:30 a.m. European time, and we got ourselves organized. Our next destination was Berlin. So Frankfurt is in the western part of the country, and we had to go all the way east to the part of the country. Usually people would take a plane, but we decided to take a train. We thought it would be pretty to see the surrounding scenery, and it would also be more affordable. So we had already looked at different train routes that we could take to Berlin, and we headed to the metro and then to the main train station in Frankfurt in order to take our high-speed train to Berlin. And let me just say, the public transportation in Germany is so clear and easy to navigate. Wow, I was blown away. Before we left, we had paid for the monthly Deutschland ticket, which gives you full access to all trains, buses, and trams, except for the high-speed trains. But even the high-speed trains are surprisingly affordable compared to Canada. For a 4 to 5 hour train from Frankfurt to Berlin, I think per person it was close to maybe $20. And that's with the currency exchange and everything. I was blown away. Hold on. Montreal style poutine and what? Quebec? Nice. We are represented worldwide. Let's go. So from the main station, we took our high-speed train, which was about 4 to 5 hours, to Berlin. And I saw how beautiful Germany was for the very first time. I truly saw no ugly views the entire time, and the yellow fields were breathtakingly beautiful. And it was so awesome to see the nature and everything of Berlin, and the fact that we were there while all the fields were in bloom of the yellow flowers. It was just so stunning. Finally, we get to one of the smaller stations for a transfer to a regular train, and then later we took a bus, and then after a long day of travel, by 7 p.m. on May 6th, we had finally arrived at our small town hotel located about 1 hour south of Berlin, of the Berlin city center. And we were tired and very excited to have arrived. And also shout out to Google Maps for being very accurate during this trip. So, May 7th, our full day in Berlin, our first full actual day in Germany, was probably one of the biggest days of the entire trip. It was also the day of the concert. So we got ready to get going by around 9 a.m. and to be in the city by 10 a.m. I suggested the plan of starting our day off at the Alexander Plaza and then slowly making our way south to the Neptune Park and finally to Museum Island. And everybody agreed that it was a great plan, and so that's what we did. We arrived and the mall wasn't open yet in the area, so I think it opened around 10:30 or so. So then we googled a little bit of the nearby cafes, and we ended up finding this place called Funk You, and we thought it was absolutely hilarious, so obviously we had to go. And it was maybe a 15-minute walk from the plaza up north. So we ended up all getting breakfast sandwiches that were so good. I also got the best iced coffee I've ever had. It was so mind-blowing. And some yummy juices. And on our way, we had seen some cool shops that weren't open yet, so we stopped on our way back. And we also explored the mall when it opened, and it was okay. I would maybe recommend another mall, but it was good for, some basic shopping. After that, we moved on to Neptune Park. The fountain was absolutely stunning. I loved seeing all the different little Greek mythology elements that were hinting at different stories and things like that. And me as a history and Greek mythology nerd, I was very happy to stare at that fountain for a good couple minutes. And then finally, we moved on to Museum Island. Our time on Museum Island was also amazing. Sadly, the Pergamon Museum was closed. So we'll have to go back one day in order to visit that because obviously, again, history nerd and Greek mythology enthusiast, I absolutely need to visit that museum at least once in my life. But we visited the art gallery instead, which had a bunch of Monet pieces, which, that's one of my favorite artists of all time, and it was so beautiful to see, and it was a really, really beautiful gallery. And I also loved all the outdoor gardens that they had. It was so beautiful with the hedges and the columns and everything and the statues. Absolutely stunning. And then at the end of that, we also visited the Berlin Dome, and that was also a very, very beautiful thing to visit. The outside was under construction, but the inside was absolutely stunning. We just sat and absorbed the beautiful art and architecture on the inside. And one of my friends actually ended up taking the 600 steps up to be on top of the dome and see the view from outside. So that was really cool too. And yeah, it was a very beautiful thing to visit. And then at this time, we were all pretty tired and knackered. It was maybe 4 p.m. or maybe even 4:30. So yeah, we were all pretty burnt out from our very long day. And we made our way back to the city center for some dinner. We had some more cafe sandwiches, which honestly, not mad about. They are so good. So we sat down at a cafe and kind of organized our next plan for the next couple hours. The Ghost concert that my friends were going to was at 8 p.m, so we all agreed that I would take everyone's extra bags back to the hotel since I was heading back first, and they'd keep only their essentials, and stuff was being locked up at the concert venue anyways, so might as well have least amount of bags as possible so that, nothing gets lost. Around 6:30 or so, we parted ways, and I took a short 10-minute train to a bigger station for my next transfer. So once I got to the bigger train station, I was feeling very confident. I just took the train all by myself in a foreign country where I don't speak the language, and I was like, oh my god, I'm a total badass. I'm doing this all by myself. This is awesome. And I've usually been someone who's been very anxious about taking public transport in my own country where it's a complete mess usually. And even more, crazy to think about taking public transport in a foreign country completely alone. But again, the system is so easy to navigate, and Google is already so clear about everything. So that was really great. But here's where the story gets a little bit interesting. Once I got off, my friend calls me and she says, "The tickets are in the bag that I gave to you, and I need you to come back so that we can have our tickets." And I was like, oh my god, are you serious? And then I asked, can you maybe get the tickets on your phone? Is there any other way? And they're like, no, they only take the physical tickets that they sent us in the mail, which is in the bag that I gave you. And I'm like, oh my god, okay. So at this point, it's maybe, close to 7, and I'm trying to figure out how to get back, and I'm looking at the app, and everything is, I'm completely frazzled. My stomach, just dropped. My phone was also at 20%. I was frazzled. I was anxious. I also just kept missing the trains that I needed to go to the area. Oh my god, I missed 3 trains in a row just by a couple seconds. Every time I saw the train just going away, and I was like, no, come back, wait, I need you. Oh my gosh, so that was absolutely crazy. Being frazzled alone and trying to figure out the public transport alone in a foreign country was very stressful, even though it had gone very well prior to this. I was very tired after a long day, so that didn't help. Anyways, finally, I was able to get to them around 7:30 or so and give them the tickets in time. And finally, safely made my way back to our motel by about, I think I arrived around 9:30 p.m. And then by then, my phone was at 5%. It was a very stressful end to my day, but I survived and everything ended up being okay. The following day, May 8th, was another big day in terms of how long it was, but we didn't do as many activities as the day prior. For this day, we stayed in till checkout time, and the girls had gotten back late from their concert the night prior, so we decided to sleep in and just go out at checkout time, since we'd be in Berlin for a very long time that day anyways. So we checked out and headed off with our bags to the Berlin main train station. In order to save some money, we had organized a night train to our next destination that evening, which was in the Offenburg area to visit some family friends and learn about some family history. Thankfully, the Berlin station had luggage lockers, so I had researched that the night prior and we found where it was, and it was honestly very affordable for 24 hours. It was €6, and I was very impressed. So we got to store our bags till we needed them for later at 11 p.m. for our travels. For the rest of that day, we explored the more southern areas of Berlin, and we saw the government building, and we also saw the Berlin Gate, or the Berlin Arch. I'm not exactly sure what the name is. But then we ended up finding a nice park to relax and rest in, and we were all like very sore and we were just tired, and big day, big travel, foreign country, needed a day to just kind of like relax and enjoy nature for a bit, even though it was a little bit like, it wasn't exactly rainy, but it was cold and cloudy and everything was a bit gray, so everyone was definitely a little bit more low energy that day. So the park was really, really nice. And honestly, I also got the clip of like these dogs. These dogs were the absolute highlight of my day. I love them. They're so cute. I'm wishing them the absolute best.
Raspberry crackers. It looks so good. Good shit.
And then eventually we got moving and we walked around aimlessly, and then we stumbled upon the location of the Berlin Wall. We kind of forgot to include that in our itinerary, but here we are. We stumbled upon it anyways. And we also got to visit the Jewish Memorial in Berlin as well. That was very heartfelt and I don't want to say beautiful to see, but it was, I'm glad I was able to see it during my lifetime. We then continued along the river and followed these signs to what was supposed to lead us to a castle. We ended up like getting lost a couple times because the signs were not updated at all. But we ended up stumbling across it, and it was more like a modern version of a castle and kind of like a mansion, but it was very pretty views nonetheless along the way. And then that evening I found us a little like German restaurant of like, it's called like a beer garden, where it's like an outdoor seated area and you kind of like order food and beers and things. And it was our first German meal. And wow, it was so good. I had pork knuckle. My other friend had like the roast of the day, which I think was like a nice roasted beef. It was really good. And then my other friend had got like, I think they were called Nuremberg sausages. Those were also really good. All of it was served with amazing sauerkraut and also this dark beer sauce, and oh man, it was so good. And also these like potato balls that were like chewy potato dough. It wasn't like an actual potato, but anyways, it was really good nonetheless, and the bread was really good. And anyways, after a long day, that really hit the spot, and we stayed there for I think a good couple hours. So we killed time by talking and stayed there till I think close to 10 p.m. and then we made our way back to the main train station for our night train. I was honestly feeling really drained at this point, and I was low patience, and I was just a total zombie. And following that, I maybe only slept 2 hours on that train, so we were all pretty dead and roughed up by the time we arrived in Offenburg at like 7:30 in the morning. And it's also important to note in the future that if you would like to take a night train in Germany, they do not turn off the lights at all for the entire train ride. Keep that in mind, because that was the brightest night of my life. At some point, I tried to like put my hood of my jacket over my head to try and, sleep, and anyways, didn't really entirely work, because it got really hot in there, but you had to do what you had to do. It was rough. Yay for saving money, but oof for the resting part. But you live and you learn. I might as well do it while I'm young. Anyways, so our next day, May 9th, we met up with the family friend, and we got to store our bags in her car while we explored the small but beautiful town of Offenburg. And it was honestly like she kept telling us, oh, like there's really nothing nice there. There's maybe one nice street and that's it. That's all. But man, Germany is just so, so, so stunning. The greenery was beautiful, and we found this peaceful little park where we ended up spending almost, I think, 2 hours resting in, where we enjoyed the sun and the flowers. We took a nap. It was honestly the chillest day of the trip, and it was really, really needed. We ended up going home with the family friend around 3 p.m. or so, who graciously accommodated us for 3 whole nights. She is so incredibly sweet and was honestly one of the highlights for me during the trip. It was so nice to learn her story and also learn from her of the history of the area and things like that. And yeah, it was really, really nice. So yeah, we just rested for the rest of the day. We had dinner and slept some more and had a long sleep in the next day too. Lots of resting. And it honestly felt like the vacation part of the trip, which was really, really nice. So for the next day, we were given the option to either visit Strasbourg in France for a day, since we were about like 20 minutes away from the French border, or we could spend the day at Europa Park, which is this like amusement park in the area, which is also very popular and a lot of French people go there, and it was really cool. Anyways, the 3 of us decided that Europa Park would be a fun change of pace during the trip and an overall good experience, and so that's what we did. It was honestly really refreshing and a great change of pace for a day, honestly, and we were there from opening till closing, so we were there for like almost like I think 11 hours or so. And yeah, it was really, really fun to go to. And I'm usually not a big amusement park fan just because of like, I get a lot of pain usually, and it's just usually not a fun time for me. So I'm usually the one carrying the bags, making sure everyone's hydrated, having snacks, and just taking care of everybody and just, you know, being the classic mom friend. And that was me that day, but I did also do a couple rides, which was really exciting for me because I usually am not able to handle rides very much, but I was able to do like 3 big roller coasters before my neck started hurting. So I'm really glad I was able to enjoy some rides, and I did do some of the kiddie rides, which was really fun too. And anyways, so overall, a very pleasant surprise that I was able to handle doing some of the rides. I'm really grateful that I was able to, and yeah. So that was a long day, but nice change of pace again, and we went home, had dinner, and rested. And for the next day, we slept in again a little bit. But then we spent the Sunday exploring the small town of Lahr and the nearby areas and learning about some of the family history of my 2 travel companions. It was a really, really nice day, and I loved exploring these small little quaint cities. There were many beautiful little views. Again, the architecture of all the old towns are absolutely stunning. I love how like people in Europe are like, oh, it's just a small town, there's nothing to see here. Yet people from, you know, Canada and whatever, whenever we visit there, we're just like, everything is so beautiful. The architecture is beautiful. All the buildings are beautiful. The old greenery is stunning. The people are kind. Like, it's just such a beautiful experience anywhere you go. So anyways, thoroughly enjoyed that, even though like everything is closed on Sundays in Europe, but it was still such like a very peaceful, chill adventure that I really, really appreciated. The next day, we said our goodbyes to the family friend and we headed off to our next stop, which was Stuttgart. We stayed only for a night, and originally we had plans to go and see 2 car museums located in Stuttgart, but we all agreed that we were all pretty tired and the commute just simply wasn't really worth it, because from where we were located in the center city, one museum was like a 1-hour commute. It wasn't very convenient at the time, and we were all really tired, so we all agreed to just keep it chill for that night. So we checked into our hotel, we cleaned up, and honestly, we napped for a good 3 hours. Around 6 p.m., we all started getting ready, and then we went out for dinner at a local bar and spent a good 3 to 4 hours there chatting and eating, and the food was really, really good. We tried schnitzel for the first time. My 2 friends had it. I ended up getting a burger because I've been craving a good burger and fries since I arrived. And it was such a good burger. And the schnitzel was also really, really good. I tried it from both my friends. I think it's just breaded fried pork basically, but it's thinly cut, and it was so, so good. Thoroughly enjoyed that. They got some beers which were really, really good. They said it was some of the best beer that they had during the trip. And then we also all shared some desserts. That was really fun too. And it was just a really nice chill evening of just enjoying the city for what it was without any plans. And I think that's so fun to do while traveling too. The next day, this is the day that we saw a castle. Our final destination that day was Frankfurt, but we organized a little pit stop in Heidelberg to visit the castle. So 1 hour of train ride later from Stuttgart to Heidelberg, we found more luggage lockers and locked up our stuff for the next 4 hours and then set off to visit the area. And honestly, I didn't know ahead of time, but now that I've experienced it, I didn't know that the area was a very touristy town, honestly. And it was nice, but I honestly would have been okay with visiting other places instead, just because of how busy it was. But it was very stunning nonetheless. The castle was very pretty. We did have to pay in order to enter the castle grounds, which makes sense for, restoration purposes and conservation purposes and all that kind of stuff. And it was nice. It was beautiful. We saw this, they had this pharmacy type of history exhibit on the inside, which was really cool to see too. And there was all these beautiful rooms set up with all these old jars and everything of what pharmacists used to use, and there were little bits of information about it here and there, and it was nice to read about it. And then the castle grounds were also very pretty, and they said that they had castle gardens, and I was expecting flowers and everything, but it was just very cleanly cut lawns. So I was a little bit sad about that. I was expecting some flowers and princess vibes. But it was very pretty nonetheless. And anyways, leaving Heidelberg was honestly such a hassle because, again, the certain lines of the trains were under construction, and this is the day where we had most of a struggle in order to leave our area. Trains kept being delayed and canceled, and our train was delayed an entire hour, but they kept saying delayed 10 minutes, delayed 15 minutes, delayed 10 minutes until an hour went by. And then by the time that the train arrived, a lot of other people's trains got delayed and everybody was taking that train, so it was absolutely packed. So we had 2 other transfers along the way, and that was also a pain. And it was a long afternoon and almost evening of travel. But finally, we arrive at our hotel in Frankfurt at 7 or maybe 6 p.m. and we just completely crashed. We did not explore Frankfurt at all. We just got all into the hotel room. We took a shower. We ended up getting some fancy instant steam pasta from the lobby downstairs. And we had basically this mini kitchenette in our hotel room as well. So we just put a little bit of water in the pasta and put it in the microwave and hoped for the best. And it was honestly pretty good for, instant packets of something. So we had that for dinner and we watched some TV, and then we just simply rested for our big travel day the next day. So the next day, we were traveling home, and we basically took a plane from Frankfurt to Toronto, and that was a day plane, and so I didn't sleep the entire time this time. I actually watched 2 different movies. I watched Dune for the first time. Very good movie, but also at the end I was like, oh, finally, we're finally getting to the good part, and then the movie ended and I was like, oh. So very excited for the next movie. I might actually read the books. I'm not sure. We'll see. We ended up arriving, like pilot said, 45 minutes ahead of schedule, which was really cool. So we arrived at like 5:30 or so in Toronto when we were only supposed to arrive like just past 6 p.m. I think. And then our next domestic flight was at 11 p.m. But we just really chilled and we finally arrived in our hometown past midnight and our adventure came to a close. And considering this was our first big trip that the three of us were organizing all by ourselves without any like, quote unquote premium adults to organize things for us, and the fact that we did all the research ourselves and, hotels and planes, we did all of that ourselves, public transport, we did all of that ourselves. I'm very, very, very happy and proud of how it all turned out. I think we all did really, really amazing. The trip went very well between the three of us. And I'm just really proud of how it all went. And I had a really, really great time. Next year as well, I have a couple trips planned, hopefully. And yeah, I just feel really good. I'm really grateful. Feeling very grateful. I think that's the best way to put it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed all the little clips that I included of our trip and our travel. I'm not entirely sure how long this video is going to end up being, but thank you for staying the entire way nonetheless. And I hope you also enjoyed my little junk journaling that I did along the way during this video too, of my travels to Germany, of all like the tickets and things that I kept. Yeah, this will be definitely a trip that I keep in, good memory for a very, very long time. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about my adventures, and I'll see you guys all very, very soon. Bye, guys!